All right, welcome back to Living on Mission. I am so excited about today's podcast. I think I say that every time, but God has really just sent me the most incredible women. And my guest today is another one of those incredible women. And I know that she has so many words of wisdom and tips and tricks to help us as busy moms who are maybe trying to do it all and not doing it very well. Anna is a time management coach. And so we are going to talk today about our time, what we do with it, and how to make the most of what we've been given without trying to live a life of perfection. So with that, sit back, listen up, maybe take some notes. This is going to be good. I can't wait to start. Okay, welcome, Anna Kornick. I am so excited to have met you. I've been following your Instagram account ever since my friend Shannon told me about you, and you're fantastic. Like, seriously, you really are.
Oh, well, Rachel, thank you so much for having me. It is such a pleasure and an honor to be here and to spend time with you today. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Good, me too. So let me do a little quick intro, and then I'm just going to let you expound on that intro because you can do it better than me. But Anna Kornick she has her own podcast. It's called It's About Time, and on Instagram she is Anna D Kornick, and I'll put all that in the show notes so you can follow her. But Anna is a time management coach. I need time management coaching, like in the work way. But really and truly, you just share so many good tips and tricks and just encouragement too. Not that we can solve everything with tips and a plan, but encouragement not to try to be perfect in the life that God has given us to lead, which for so many of us is very busy. It's very messy. And, just a little organization and time management could probably help a lot of us. So with that, tell us about you, Anna. Tell us about your family, where you live, and kind of what your mission is with your coaching business.
Sure. So thank you so much. Well, like Rachel said, my name is Anna Dearman Kornick. I'm a time management coach and host of It's About Time, a podcast sharing stories and strategies to inspire women seeking better work-life balance. As a time management coach, I help women stop feeling overwhelmed and start spending time on what matters most by mastering time management. And I'll be honest, I haven't always been a time management coach. I actually started my career on Capitol Hill, click-clacking around in high heels and a pencil skirt as a scheduler to a United States congressman, managing one of the most hectic schedules in the country. And it's so funny, back then when I was spending, 10 to 12-hour days in front of an Outlook calendar, managing hundreds of requests for my boss's time, I never imagined that one day I would be spending my time helping busy moms manage their time and steward the time that they're given well. After I worked in DC, I then came back to Louisiana because, let's be honest, I missed my grandmother. I missed boiled crawfish. I missed all of those comforts of home that you just can't find anywhere else. And I kicked off about a decade of a career in the high stakes world of crisis communications and government affairs. Rachel, you name it, oil spills, earthquakes, plant explosions, droughts, hurricanes, tornadoes, nonprofit embezzlement schemes, you name it. And I have probably escorted someone down a freight elevator into a back alley in order to avoid TV cameras outside. Seriously, like that was my life. That was my job.
That's a little exciting though. Like that's kind of cool, but high stress, I would imagine.
Yeah, as you can imagine, the 24/7 nature of being constantly in demand really started to take its toll on me. And so back in 2017, I walked away from that prestigious career in crisis communications in search of something different, in search of something better. Rachel, I was burnt out. My boundaries were totally gone. My health, my relationships were crumbling. I was missing important things like baby showers, and I was stepping away from dinner to take calls, and it wasn't the life that I wanted to live. It wasn't the life that I wanted to have whenever I got married and had a family one day. And so after one too many mornings of crying in the stairwell on the way up to my office, I decided something had to give. And I didn't know what that would look like, but I set out in search of something that would hopefully marry that interesting time management experience that I had so early in my career with my communication skills that would enable me to help other women either avoid that dark spot that I found myself in or help them, find their way out of it. And so now I'm a time management coach and I absolutely love the work that I do in helping women, and I have worked with men, guys, but mainly helping women steward the time that they have been given, because I believe that our time is a gift, in that we're charged with using it well. When I'm not when I'm not recording episodes for the podcast or coaching, I'm a mom to Camilla Jane, who's 2.5, and Elizabeth, who is 6 months. We call them Millie and Bitsy, and trying to find some spare time in the day to have a quality conversation with my husband, because when you've got a toddler and a 6-month-old, they are few and far between. And yeah, we live in Louisiana, outside of Baton Rouge, where, we love cheering on the LSU Tigers and just enjoying everything that South Louisiana has to offer.
All right. Now we're Ole Miss Rebels, so my husband cannot hear this part of the podcast. Really
Well,
he's very hotty toddy.
I love it. Well, I'll tell you what, like, Ole Miss is my favorite away game. I've been to more away games at Ole Miss than any other school, because they're just so much fun. I mean, there's nothing that compares to the Grove and that whole experience. I love it.
Oh yeah, it's exciting. Now I have to say this, because as I was listening to your story, isn't it cool that God does not waste any part of our story? Like while you were scheduling for that senator, congressman, I can't remember.
Congressman, yeah.
And like even the job that you hated, or you ended up hating, maybe, let's say it that way, just because it was sucking so much out of you. Like God used all that to bring you to where you're at now, to a place of service. And I love that you say over and over, like, steward of our time, because that is a big conviction of mine, that, I don't always steward my time well, either in business or with my husband or, with our kids. And I'm really excited for you to talk about that today. So when you are, I know you had mentioned mornings. Do a lot of women ask you, like, how do I become a morning person, or how do I use my mornings well?
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. I'd say that is definitely a very, very common question, because there's just no doubt that our mornings set the tone for the rest of our day. When you have a good morning, whatever good looks like for you, but when you have a good morning, it really enables you to walk into the rest of your day feeling confident, feeling calm, and like you're ready to tackle whatever's ahead of you. But the tough part is that we all have our own unique internal clock. Some of us are just going to be natural morning people, and some of us are going to come alive in the evenings. And so whenever someone comes to me and says, how can I be a better morning person? The first thing that I tell them is that, first of all, you've got to be yourself. And you've got to be yourself, and you've got to know yourself, and really take that time to listen and pay attention to when your energy is at its best. Because, maybe a good morning for you is going to look like a different good morning for someone else. And maybe the key to unlocking your best morning is by doing as much as you can in the evening to prepare.
That's really
so for a lot of us, me included, a great morning starts the night before. A great morning for me even starts as soon as my kids get home from school. The moment that my girls walk in, I take both of their backpacks, unpack them. I mean, they're 6 months and 2.5. So one day they'll get to help with this, but I unpack their backpacks, repack them. Elizabeth gets 2 clean bottles. They both get their, 5 diapers in their bag for the day. I check extra clothes to make sure that they've got their extra clothes. And that's a habit. That's something that you can do as soon as they get home from school, so that you're not scrambling the next morning. But really it's taking a close look at what are the things that I need to do in the morning so that I can get out the door successfully? And then what are the things that I want to do? What are the things that are like enriching to me? What's going to make me really feel like I'm starting my day on the right foot? And mapping out, how long would it take for me to do all of those things that I need to do and want to do, reverse engineer, and then start trying it out. Test it, fix it, repeat.
Yeah, that's great because I've never thought about that. I guess I've always thought about what I want to do in the mornings. Like I want to have that quiet time. I want to work out. I want to do all that. But I've never really thought about it from a standpoint of what do I need to do. And I know that I need to pour into myself. I need to get the boys set up. We homeschool. I need to get set up for homeschool. And I don't do that. Like I honestly don't do that, but it would make it so much smoother if I focus on that. That's such a good tip.
Yeah. And really, there are so many things that we can do in advance. My example of repacking the backpacks as soon as the girls get home from school, what are those things that you do every single morning that could actually be done all at once a week? Mm-hmm. Things like meal planning, that's typically the example that most people think of. Instead of deciding what you're going to have for lunch or dinner every day, decide on Sunday or decide on Saturday what you're going to do for the week. Instead of, for me, picking out my girls' outfits every single morning, every Sunday, after I finish meal planning and putting in the grocery order or making the grocery list, I make a beeline for their closets and I pick out 5 little outfits and hang them on a hook so that every morning when mom, when the coffee hasn't kicked in yet, goes in to get them dressed, all I have to do, pull the little outfit for the day off of the hook, get ready and go. What are those things that you can do batch them in chunks in advance so that your week is so much smoother?
That is wonderful. I love that. I love that. And so, the weekend, I think we tend to see it as, I mean, not that we should work all week, but like if we do a little work on the weekend, then that does bring peace and joy and just kind of clarity more or less to our week. That is such a good tip. So what about what are some other things? You said meal planning, like laying clothes out. Like what are some other tips for weekend planning that you give people?
Yeah. So really the top tip here is to design your weekly planning session. So I believe that there are 5 essential routines that we all need in order to show up as our best self. Those include, the obvious, the morning routine, the evening routine that helps you, transition to getting a good night's sleep, because sleep is so important for refreshing and showing up as our best, a workday startup routine and a workday shutdown routine, and the number 5 is a weekly planning session. So I don't really frame a weekly planning session as doing work on the weekends. Instead, it's a ritual that you can do to set yourself up for success. And it's thinking through and almost creating an agenda yourself for yourself, having like a little checklist of things that you do every single Saturday or every single Sunday that will help you step into your week feeling confident. For me, that looks like starting my weekly planning session by looking at my calendar for the week ahead, getting a bird's eye view of what's coming, what meetings are on my calendar, what activities do the girls have, what's going on, what does the week look like, and adding in things like travel time. If we have to drive to a doctor's appointment, there's going to be a block on my calendar called travel time, because looking at your week in advance, creating those visual representations of how you're spending your time will help you be more realistic with what you can accomplish in a given day. So if first, look at your calendar for the week ahead, walk through the week. And what this is going to do is it's going to help you identify what tough spots are in your week. What are the tough spots? Where's the friction? What are the obstacles? When do you have maybe an event, maybe a small group or a Bible study event one evening? And do you need to secure childcare for that? Is that something that you can get the ball rolling on in advance? So it's not 4:00 and you realize, oh, I have small group tonight. We need to grab a babysitter. And then you start scrambling. Identifying those obstacles in advance also helps you improve your communication with your husband.
Yeah.
Because if you recognize, oh, wow, on Tuesday, I have 3 really big meetings, and this last one very likely has the potential to run late. I need to let Scott know so that he's not caught off guard, and so that we incorporate that into our family plan for the week. It's really thinking of, so often as women, we take on so much responsibility for running the household, but finding a way to really make it like that partnership, that true partnership in, this is what the week looks like, this is the communication that's going to help the week run smoothly. So
Yeah,
looking
that
at,
is great. It's really like the two words that keep playing in my head are it's being proactive versus
yeah,
reactive, which
absolutely.
which takes us everywhere, which
Oh
takes
my
us everywhere. Now, do you advise, like, I mean, as I'm listening and I'm thinking about our schedule and, just like what all we have on our plate, do you ever encourage women to like give something up that maybe doesn't fit life goals, or, if it's so stressful that you just can't look at your week and be like, I'm just overwhelmed? Like, do you ever encourage women to give something up?
Well, yes, but it depends.
Yeah.
It depends. So I wholeheartedly believe that everything that is on your calendar should have a purpose. Everything that is on your calendar should be tied to your personal values. And if you've never taken the time to articulate, to really write down what your personal core values are, I highly, highly recommend you really sitting with that and choosing, 5 to 7 words that represent what matters most to you. I like to say that um, time management doesn't begin with moving things around on your calendar, because until you get crystal clear on what matters most, you can't begin to prioritize. Time management is heart management. Time management starts on the inside. And if you look at your calendar and you recognize that there are some things that don't feel right, chances are they are in conflict with your personal core values. You may not even have them articulated, but you might be able to look at something and feel a certain way about it and know that it just doesn't fit in. And that's when it's time to let it go. And that can be hard, especially when we want to follow through. We want to a lot of times be all things to all people and not let anyone down. But at the end of the day, we're given one life. We're given one chance to spend our time in the way that we're meant to. And by continuing to do things that aren't in line with your core values, that make you feel that friction, you're doing a disservice to yourself.
Yeah.
You're not living in that full potential
Yeah.
that you have.
I like that. I love that because I do think we expect so much of ourselves, and there's really freedom in saying that doesn't line up with where I'm at right now or what God has me doing, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, this made me think it might be a surprise to some people, but I remember when I gave up teaching a Sunday school class.
Mhm.
Does teaching the word of God to children line up with my core values? Absolutely. But whenever it became something extra I wasn't having time for, or, we started homeschooling and I was running a business, and it just didn't make sense for me to have that on my plate. And, it was a conviction that God was telling me to give it up, but it was really hard. But you know what happened when I did? It opened the door for somebody else to do it and to do it
Yes.
well, you know?
Yeah.
And so like that was really cool. And that was probably one of the first lessons as an adult of me following that, that Holy Spirit guiding, but also taking something off of my plate, which is
Mhm.
hard for us to do.
You
Very.
just never know what you're paving the way
Mhm.
for it to be replaced with.
Yeah.
And that's why when you feel that, you just kind of have to trust it. You kind of have to trust what you're being led to do, even when you don't know, even when you can't pinpoint why. Because so often whenever we do let those things go, even though they feel important and they feel right, but that something's just not lining up, we're so often surprised and blessed with something that's so much better.
Yeah, yeah. That we were talking about that before we started recording in your life. That's so cool. I love it. Now, okay, so I'm a health and fitness coach, and I get to mentor women in faith and fitness. One of the things that I know you mentioned about self-care, but I hear a lot of women say, I don't have time to take care of myself. Like, how do you respond to that?
Yeah. So it really comes down to priorities. And priorities a lot of times can feel very abstract and fuzzy. We know that we need to prioritize. It's this word that we like to throw around, but in practice, it can be really hard. And so I like to simplify priorities by thinking of them as boulders, big rocks, and pebbles. Everybody can picture what a boulder looks like. They're giant. You can push on them with all your might, but they're not going to move. Big rocks are smaller than boulders, and you can move them around, you can push them. And then pebbles are teeny tiny, and there are a ton of them. And so whenever you're looking at things in your life, like working out, like taking care of yourself, that's a boulder. That is something that is important. That is something that helps you show up as the best version of yourself because you're taking care of the body that God has given you to do work beyond just beyond working out. And when you begin to think of working out, taking care of your bedtime stories with your kids, whatever that is, as a boulder, you picture it as being big and immovable. But let me tell you real quick about big rocks and pebbles and how all this fits together. So big rocks are those things that move the needle in your life, in your work. A lot of times they're urgent, they are important, and they're those things that you have to tackle this week. Like meeting with your team to encourage them in their faith and fitness journey. That meeting right there is a big rock for you. You can reschedule it to next Thursday if you need to, but it's something that needs to happen. And then pebbles, itty bitty pebbles, these are things like scheduling a doctor's appointment, scheduling a hair appointment, putting something in the mail, returning something you bought from Amazon, all of those little bitty things that have the ability to take over our lives. And so whenever you're mapping out your week, whenever you're planning what you're going to be doing for the next 7 days, you start with your boulders. You start with working out and you put those in your calendar first. Because when you do it the other way around and you start with pebbles and then you start with big rocks, you don't have room for boulders after. You just have room because pebbles and big rocks have the ability to take over our lives. And so when you start with the boulders and then add the big rocks, the pebbles fill in the gaps in between.
That's so helpful because I am the worst. I'm the worst to get out my planner and be like, when you said that, I actually remembered I do need to return something to christianbooks.com.
Don't we all? We always have something that needs to be returned.
I haven't done it, but I do. I fill in the little tiny things first. And yeah, what's important, the biggest, it is a cornerstone. Our health and fitness is a cornerstone of us being able to do all these other things. And so, yeah, that's really, really powerful. So for you personally, so what are the boulders? Like, what do you schedule in first in your week?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So the first thing that I make sure to schedule in is worship time.
Mhm.
And so a lot of us, that's something that is like second nature. It's become a habit for us, but really making sure that it is visually represented on our calendar really helps us to commit to holding space for that. My morning routine is considered a boulder for me, making sure that I am working out, making sure that I am, in my garage gym with Beachbody up on the TV in our garage working out. And baby, what's it called? Bedtime stories.
Yeah.
Bedtime stories with my little girl. That's has a spot on my calendar, and I will decline speaking engagements. I will turn down meeting opportunities. I will, that's sacred time for me. And it's really knowing what are those things that are sacred time for you, that will always come first. One really actionable exercise that I recommend whenever you're trying to get the hang of what's a boulder, what's a big rock, and what's a pebble, is whenever you sit down to write your to-do list for the day, to actually write a B next to your boulders, a BR next to your big rocks, and a P next to your pebbles. Because whenever you start actively classifying, okay, what on this list is a boulder, a big rock, and a pebble, it causes you to approach each of those things on your to-do list differently.
That's so good. Now, do you have a special planner that you've created or something like that?
I don't, but man, wouldn't that be fun to do one day?
I can see your planner with these little stickers, a B, a BR, and a P, and like you just like plug them in.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know why I have these ideas for people. The last person I interviewed, I told her she needed to write a book, but I need to like maybe just bring it down a little bit. But
yeah,
I just
love
think
it. I love it. I'll put it on my list.
There you go. In between all the other things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you told me that you like to help women do is whenever they're feeling overwhelmed, like what is your best? Because we are overwhelmed. We're like taking kids to soccer. A lot of us are working full time. We're involved in ministry or like church activities. We have a family and a husband to love and children to take care of and feed and all those things. And so like it can't, all the good things, even the good things can get overwhelming. Like, what do you say to that mom out there that's listening to this? And she's like, that sounds great, Anna and Rachel, like I'm going to plan out my week, but by Wednesday, I still feel like it's all falling apart. Like, what do you say to her?
Yeah. So first thing that I would say is take a deep breath. Take a deep breath, say a prayer. It's going to be okay. Having a reset ritual is one of the best things that you can do whenever you feel that moment of overwhelm and the schedule is completely derailed and you've got spit up on your shirt and the toddler won't put their shoes on and everything just feels crazy. And a reset ritual is something that's really simple. It's when you feel the anxiety rising up, it's stopping, it's taking a break, and maybe it's deep breaths. Maybe it's singing a song that's special to you in your head. Maybe there's a praise song or a worship song, or mine is a song from Hamilton. Like seriously, there's this song from Hamilton called Wait For It. And I like anytime I feel it rising up, I just replay the words to that song in my head and it just helps me calm down. And it's finding what is it for you that's going to help you bring that like frantic energy down. And so once you've done your reset ritual, we're running all over the place. But when you can find a moment to get everything out of your head. The thing is that we feel overwhelmed so often because we have so much that we're carrying in our heads, things that are bouncing around and cycling through. I'm out of batteries. We need to order more toilet paper. I need to sign that permission slip. When do I have to send the cupcakes to school? I have this service or like organization. I have a deadline for this. I have a work deadline. We have so much in our heads. And the thing is that, and this is not my quote, David Allen, a guy who invented a productivity system called Getting Things Done. He said, our minds are meant for having ideas, not holding them. Our minds are meant for having ideas, not holding them. And we feel overwhelmed because we're trying to hold too much in. And so a lot of times, in order to relieve that overwhelm pressure, getting everything out of your head and onto paper is a first step. And so I typically say when you are truly feeling overwhelmed and you are ready to get relief, write everything down. Just get it out of your head and onto paper. And once you do that, categorize the things on your list into these 4 categories. Must do, what must you do? Should do, what are the things that you feel like you should do, but if you don't do them, it's totally fine. What are the things that you want to do? And then what are the things that you could do? Every single thing that we are going to get out of our head and onto paper can fit into one of those 4 categories: must do, should do, could do, and want to. And when you're feeling overwhelmed, you look at what's in that must do list and you start there. Ignore everything else and look at those things that you must do, because when you start to make progress on those must do's, you feel the load lightening. You really zero in on what is most urgent, and you can feel the load lightening as you start to make progress on each one.
That is so good. I just made so many notes while you were talking about that, because I do. I mean, I am that girl. I have so many thoughts and ideas in my head so often. And it is like, sometimes it's new ideas, sometimes it's creativity, sometimes it's like, did Henry feed the dog,
Right.
And so it does get overwhelming. But to know, first of all, Anna, that that's normal. I mean,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with you if you feel that way.
No.
And then there's actually like, I'm an action girl. Like, tell
Yeah.
me what to do. And so knowing like that there are some things that you can do just immediately to kind of relieve some of that pressure in your head, that is so life-giving. I mean, I think that's going to help a lot of women. So are there ways that women can work with you? Like if they want to, because you say you're a time management coach, right? So you
Yeah.
coach people.
Yes. So I am so excited to be launching a brand new way to work with me in October of this year. So depending on when this episode goes live, it may already be.
This will go live in October. I'm not sure which Monday, but it will go live in October. So yes.
Yay. Yeah. So it's a group coaching experience called Next Level Life. I know that so many of us we feel like we're on the verge, or we feel like we're ready to take that next step, whether that is really going for a promotion or stepping into something like homeschooling for the first time, or we're considering becoming a fitness coach ourselves. We're very interested in getting to whatever that next level is that looks like for us. But we know that we still have some things to figure out. We've got to get a solid foundation in place. We know that if we're going to add something else, we want to have our routines set. We want to make sure that we're crystal clear on what our core values are, so that we have that North Star. We have that to reflect on. And so Next Level Life is a wholehearted approach to balanced living that really incorporates living with heart and stewarding the time that we're given well, so that you can accomplish your dreams, and so that you can continue to dream big, and so that you can feel like that ambitious go-getter that you are. And you get to do it with support from a coach and a community of women who are right there with you in pursuit of their own dreams and their own next level.
Yeah. Well, can I ask you, I didn't ask you this before, but so I'm kind of throwing this on you, but is there a verse that you feel like kind of guides your time management principles for your life? There probably are many, quite honestly, but I know there's a lot in the Bible about stewardship.
Oh my gosh. And now my mind is going to go absolutely.
Sorry.
No. It's okay. Man, I wish I would have had that ready. Let me see. I have a verse that I keep on like my Trello board that's moving really slowly. And it's not even necessarily like time management focused, but I always go back to this one. Okay, hold on. Let me find it.
Take your time. I don't recall verses easily either. I have to look them up.
Hey, and that's such another example of our minds are meant for having ideas and not holding them. I used to do Bible drill like back when I was in middle school. Yeah, and man, I had all of those verses memorized and could find anything. And now I'm lucky if I remember,
What you ate yesterday.
Yeah, seriously.
It is no rush. I just thought I would ask you that, just because I know that, there are certain verses that guide like my health and fitness journey, and then like my momming journey, and they're always different. It's always dependent on what's happening in my life at this time. But I just was curious. Good one. Go ahead.
Like I said, this is not man, like I just read it and I feel so much. So one of my core values is actually courage. My core values are intention, authenticity, courage, curiosity, and legacy. And so it's Deuteronomy 31:6. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. We as women are carrying so much, and we can't do it alone. We can't do it all. We can't do it alone, and we certainly can't do it perfectly. And we have to have someone else to call on for strength.
Yes. Deuteronomy 31 verse 6. Is that right?
Yeah.
I love the book of Deuteronomy. Oh my goodness. Like it gives me goosebumps just to talk about it. I feel like it's just my life, and the whole fact that God, I can't, like you said, I can't do it alone. And he lets us wonder a little bit. So we can figure out that we can't do it alone. I love that. I'm going to put that in the show notes, that verse, because that is powerful. And I'm glad that Trello worked for you and that you're able to pull it up. I'm also glad that like our listeners know, like we don't have it all together. We don't have all the memory verses like stuck in our head to recall at the right time. Like, but thank goodness that you put that on your Trello board to remind you every day. Like that is so cool. And I also love your core values. So those are the things that God, what become boulders for you essentially, right?
Yeah.
That's powerful. That's exciting. I love it. Well, I have loved this. Like I said, I have a whole page of notes from just you talking and sharing tips. And I know that this will be such a blessing to our listeners. And how can people connect with you? People who are listening and maybe want to follow you or listen to your podcast or reach out to you. What's the best way to do that?
Sure. So the first thing that I would say, I would invite you to tune in to It's About Time. I have new episodes that drop every single Monday, interviews with go-getters, really pulling back the curtain on how they do all the things that they do. I love finding out how people do things. And then when I'm not interviewing ambitious women making things happen, I'm sharing strategies that I use in my life, that I use in my clients, that are always very actionable. So I would love for you to tune in wherever you listen to podcasts. And then Instagram. You can find me on Instagram most of the time. My handle is Anna D. Kornick. I know Rachel's going to share that in the show notes. I would love for you to come follow me, which always sounds so weird to say, but come be my friend on Instagram. Send me a DM. If you have burning time management questions, send them to me. It brings me so much joy to have conversations and really help people figure things out and find what works best for them. So please send me a message. I would love to hear from you.
Yeah. And her Instagram is beautiful. I'm just going to tell you, it's like goals.
Thank you.
It's so pretty. Last question, and then we will end this, but how can we, like myself and our listeners, pray for you as you move forward into whatever God has next for you? Is there anything that we could pray specifically for you?
Oh my goodness. I think that what comes to mind first is I think like graceful transitions is what comes up for me the most, because I've just stepped into a very exciting role with a company whose mission and values align with mine so much. And I know that there's going to be a lot of change associated with that, change to our schedules, change to our family's rhythms, change to, what we've been blessed to steward financially. And I would just really appreciate you thinking of me as I'm navigating the big transitions.
Yeah. How awesome. You guys, if you want to, it would be really cool if you guys just blew up her inbox with a prayer as she transitions. I know that I will be praying for you. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for using your gifts well, because you are. And just listening to you, honestly, has given me peace in so many ways I didn't even expect. This was about my listeners. How can I add value to my listeners? But this was very powerful for me. And you are doing good work. You are using your gifts well, and you are stewarding well. And so Thank you for doing that. And thank you so much for taking a minute to be on Living on Mission. I know this is just going to be so good for so many women.
Oh, well, Rachel, thank you so much. The pleasure was all mine. It has been such an honor to spend time with you today.
All right, you guys. Well, that is it. Definitely leave a review of this podcast if it did encourage you, and definitely follow Anna in all the places and listen to her wisdom and just let it change your life. All right. Have a good day. Bye.